morning and welcome to After GMS here on Facebook Live. Thanks for joining us for some good times, some good conversations. Can't promise you a good forecast, but that's why we have Christian Morgan here to deliver the news. I'm not going to quantify it, whether it's good or bad. I'm just going to say the news. I'm Tracy McCain here in the studio, and I see a lot of people are starting to join in on these conversations. So, Christian, before we get to the conversation, which is about weather, why don't you give us the forecast, which is, you know, that.
It is just that. You're right about that. And I can already tell you there's going to be some unhappy people on our Facebook live stream, but there's not much that we can do about the weather. Yes, it is chilly and it is quite soggy as well. Temperatures in Greensboro right now at 55. And we're going to keep this gray and soggy look. I know it's not our best look, but we're going to keep the attire around for the next couple of days. Not much warmer, 56 in High Point, really all across the Triad. Temperatures are stuck in the lower and mid 50s, and it'll be hard to get out of the 50s today. In fact, as we go on our radar view, you can see we do have that light rain falling across much of the Triad. If we zoom in a little closer, you can see there are some of those heavier bands of rain that we talked about this morning during the Good Morning show. And if we zoom in even a little bit closer, you can see some of those heavier bands of rain setting up in the northwestern corner of Randolph County, also back along Davidson County, up into Yadkin County as well. And those will continue as we go throughout the day. It's not going to rain all the time everywhere. It will come in rounds, very on and off in nature. But where those heavier bands of rain set up is where we could have our higher rain totals and eventually might even have some flash flooding concerns, although right now I don't have a flash flooding concern. We do have an area of low pressure in the upper atmosphere. It's pretty much just kind of stuck over the Carolinas. And what it does is pulls in moisture off of the ocean. So that's why we keep getting these reoccurring rounds of rain. And it's going to stay stuck for a couple days until something comes along later in the week and helps to kind of sweep it away and take it out of here. Also, at the same time, we have high pressure up to our north funneling in that cooler air. So with the rain and the cooler wind, it's hard for us to warm up very much. So our temperatures are running about 20 degrees below normal. As far as rain totals go, generally less to the west and more to the east. Around 2 to 4 inches is possible across the Triad by the time that we get to the end of the week. So pack the rain gear. Keep the jacket handy today. You'll need it. We'll struggle to get out of the 50s, but we could briefly make it to 60 degrees, and it will be a chilly rain. It will be breezy at times as well. We could have wind gusts 25 to 30 miles per hour at times, and then overnight, our temperatures aren't going to move a whole lot. We'll be stuck in the mid and upper 50s for most of the day. So it's a soggy, chilly day today and tomorrow, although we'll be in the mid and upper 60s tomorrow. Of course, still well below normal. But eventually, slowly but surely, our rain chances will go down as we head through the end of the week. And as our rain chances go down, our temperatures will also start to recover. We'll be back to the lower 80s on Friday, mid and upper 80s, maybe even close to 90 by the time we get to Sunday and Monday. So there is a light at the end of the tunnel. It's just going to take a little while to get there.
Oh, a perfect grilling day for Father's Day this Sunday. Wow, don't forget about Dad. All right, so it is June, right? You've checked the calendar. You probably looked at it twice. Is it March or is it in fact June? It feels like Mother Nature is confused, and quite frankly, so am I. Overnight temperatures were in the 50s last night, and the temps really haven't moved up yet. As Christian just said, we're struggling to get to 60 degrees today with all the rain, and I'm going to go ahead and say brisk temperatures. Yep.
It is,
I cranked up the heat last night, and some of you did too. I asked you on my Facebook page and here on the stream if you turn on the heat, and a lot of people are weighing in. Let's get to Heidi, who said, yes, I did. My puppers and I snuggled under the blankets. It was rather nice. Good sleeping weather. V says, I loved it. Love the cool nights in the morning. I even had my fan on. Annette says, no heat, but I did smell someone's wood stove in the air yesterday. And Angel said, nope, this is perfect weather for my husband. I just wrapped up in a throw. So you are also commenting in the chat section of our live stream now. But before I get to you guys, Christian, I mean, I know guys tend to be warmer than women, but did you feel like you needed the heat last night?
No, I actually still had the air on because I like it cold. I can't sleep when it's hot. I can't sleep. It's got to be cold. You have a blanket, you have a quilt, you have the comforter for a reason, right? So you might as well use it. But I can't sleep when I'm hot. So the air was still on.
Yeah.
Not quite as strong as it has been the last few days, but it was still on.
That is so funny. You and my husband are like, you know, eye and eye on this, you know, and that's why he and I debate all the time, and I just end up getting my way only because of the kids. So now, you know, I have a reason. I'm like, we've got to keep it warm for the kids, and that it really means we have to keep it warm for me, but I'm just cold-natured. Yeah. All right, so Christian had his air on last night. Let's see what you guys are saying. Renee said she didn't turn on the heat. Sokino said we did not. Ramona said yes, she did. Jessica Richards said she had to turn her heat back on. Jason Hutchins said he slept with his fan on, which is incredible to me. Michelle wants to know, why did I turn the heat off outside? And Michelle, I replied, blame Christian because he's responsible for all this.
Oh yeah, it's my fault. Yeah.
Glenda McKinney said just turn the air off. And you know, a lot of people are just kind of like trying to figure out like what's going on with this season. So it's so weird. Like, this does not happen every year. It's normally what, 85 is our average for this time of year?
Normally right now our average high is 85. So we're running about 20 to 25 degrees, even more than that, in some cases below normal, and it is not your typical June. But there's actually a very North Carolina classic setup, which is part of the reason why we're much cooler, but it's kind of stuck in place for a couple days, and we broke a record yesterday. Good chance to break another record today too for having the coolest June days.
Wow. Can I blame El Nino?
No, you can't blame El Nino for this.
Okay.
But you can blame a very classic North Carolina pattern. We talk about it especially a lot in winter. It's very common, not as much in the summer, but it's called, we refer to it as a cold air damming situation, or maybe you've heard us refer to it as the Appalachian wedge. So what happens is you have cooler air from the northeast. Our winds are really coming out of the northeast right now, and all of that cooler air comes in and banks up against our mountains, and it doesn't really have anywhere to go. So we have clouds and we have rain, and that kind of further locks it in place. So there's nowhere for that air to really go, or there's no way for us to warm up. So that's why we stay so cool.
Well, thanks for making me smarter, Christian. I feel, you know, like I can tackle the day now, you know, with that weather background.
Maybe I can make you smarter, but I can't make you warmer. So
that's true.
I'm 50-50.
All right. Well, let's jump into our next conversation here, and people are already really weighing in already. So we want to make sure we read your comments. You could be required to wear a face mask in public soon. During a COVID-19 update yesterday, Governor Roy Cooper announced he is considering making wearing a mask mandatory in North Carolina. Governor Cooper says the increase in positive COVID-19 cases in the past few weeks is concerning, and he said he's looking into additional rules, including making those mandatory. He said that it would be ideal if people voluntarily wore masks, but he said he would mandate it if necessary. Right now, anyone working in the nail and hair industries have to wear masks. Certain industries, including health and hospital workers, also wearing masks. We're wearing masks here at News 2 around the building. So now they're looking at studies to show the importance of wearing masks and if it is in fact necessary. Some of you sounding off on Facebook saying, like Holly, I know they are uncomfortable, but I agree with the face masks. In states like Virginia and Maryland, where they have been mandatory, it has slowed the spread. Mary weighed in saying, quote, some people I can't breathe, get claustrophobic and have panic attacks. My husband has COPD, and it was not good for him to wear one. Wendy says, I wore one to go in the bank and had a panic attack and about passed out. I had to pull it off my face. She said, I can't do it. So there are a lot of people who are not able to wear masks because of, you know, didn't even realize that this had, you know, anxiety attached to it. Some people have to wear them because of underlying health issues, asthma being one of them, and so many people have asthma. So this is the debate. So people are weighing in. Christian, I'll send it to you while I kind of look through the comments to see what we can offer to people here.
Yeah, and you know, I just don't think it's as easy as some people think, as saying, okay, we're going to wear a mask or not. because like you said, there are people who actually do, really do have some serious medical concerns that would prevent them from safely wearing a mask. And then on top of that, we also have to think about, if it does go into place, how are we going to enforce that? Is it left up to police? Is it left up to, we talked about this earlier this morning. Is it left up to the private sector, to the business owners themselves to enforce it with people who are coming into their business, whether it be a restaurant or a shopping? And then also, now that I say restaurant, we also have to think, okay, what's the rule behind that? Do you have to wear it in and then order and take it off when you eat and put it back on? There's going to be so many guidelines and so many rules if it does go into play. And it just, how are we going to enforce it? And if it's left up to the business owners to do that, how strongly are they going to enforce that rule? Because it's kind of split down the middle, I think, on this situation.
Yeah, and I know employers can force their employees to wear a mask in order to work there, but how do you enforce a customer who is shopping? But I guess if it is a state order, that would be, you'd be in violation, so you could technically get fined. But again, Christian, your point, who's gonna, blow the whistle?
And if you have, a medical concern where you can't wear it, what do you do at that point? Do you have to carry some kind of doctor's note, or how do you prove that, or how do you bridge that gap?
There's a lot to talk about here. So let's get to some of the comments here. Holly says no to wearing a mandatory mask. Donna Wyatt says she can't breathe in the summer heat with a mask on. Lewis Griffin says you wear a mask out of consideration for others. If you can't do that, then that says a lot about you. It has absolutely nothing to do with your rights. We also heard from Nadine, who said, I would definitely feel more comfortable going into stores if masks were mandatory. They would get my business over others. Sonia says wearing a mask keeps other people safe. And Adria says people complaining about wearing masks have no concern for others. If you get COVID, sure, it might not kill you, but it does lasting damage to your body, not to mention your finances if you land in the hospital. I care about my neighbors, and I'm willing to sacrifice comfort to protect them. Michelle had a question. So did Cooper say you must wear a mask? Michelle, he said he is considering making it mandatory. So he is still apparently in the exploration phase, but said that it is definitely a possibility if the cases go up. So Lindsay says yes to masks. If they are uncomfortable, wear a face shield. Christian, I didn't think about that. So that would answer one of your concerns about people who have underlying health conditions, maybe not wearing a mask, but maybe wearing a face shield. I mean, technically it would be a face covering, so that could make a difference.
Still kind of doing the same job.
Yeah. So Wanda is asking me about the breakout of COVID-19 in China and Tokyo. I have heard about that. There is, a population of some folks in China who have, where it has reemerged. And now it's kind of in that second wave thing, which is what has been suggested could happen here as well. So, I'm hoping that doesn't happen. I mean, like really, really, really hoping that a second wave doesn't happen, but it is possible. And Gloria says, yes, for everyone's safety, please wear a mask. So, it's one of those things where, there are going to be two different sides to this all the time, right? And who knows who's really right and who's wrong, but we do know that the CDC is recommending people wear a mask when they go out. Now, mandatory just adds a little bit of a weirdness to it, right? You just kind of like, you want to have, the opportunity to make a decision for yourself, or at least most people do, or your family members. So that word mandatory kind of just maybe rubs people the wrong way.
I think it does. And I think, like you said, this is going to be split down the middle, but for when they require it, I think there's also a feeling for some folks of kind of some overreach from the government saying you have to do this and you have to do this and you have to do that if you want to go out and actually participate in society. So, like you said, it's going to be split, but there are some concerns if it comes down as a mandatory thing where you have to do it. And at that point, when do you have to do it? If you just walk outside, do you have to do it? Or is it when you go in somewhere? So there's tons of details to work out. And how long will that last? Is that part of a phase? Do we lose that mandatory order if it happens once we enter a new phase of reopening? There's so many questions to answer.
Yeah, and I just want to address Lisa, who said, funny, you read the ones that say yes, but not the ones that say no. And I didn't do that purposefully. I literally went down the stream and chose the first ones that I saw pop up. And so they happen to all say one versus the other. I never read one of every side purposefully. So just to read your comment, it said, no, they should not be mandatory. Some people have anxiety issues and breathing issues, which were some of the comments that we read earlier when we were talking about our Facebook comments, who were saying, you know, I have asthma, I have anxiety. One woman went to the bank and she said she nearly passed out and had to take the mask off because of that. And so she said that no, she would not wear a mask. So I do try to mix it up here, and please don't hold that against me. All right, so I guess I'll leave that with the last word here. A great conversation though, and it will be ongoing probably until the governor makes a decision, and who knows when that will be. We do know that phase 3 is supposed to start in a few weeks here on June 26th. All right, let's get to your morning headlines here. Speaking of face coverings, they are now required for everyone on NC State's campus starting July 1st. Students, faculty, staff, and visitors will be required to have a face covering in classrooms, labs, and outdoor spaces. This new policy is expected to last through the fall semester. Well, the coronavirus has now claimed more than 116,000 American lives, and now they're projecting it could be up to 200,000 by October 1st. The Centers for Disease Control says the illness is particularly deadly for people who have underlying health conditions, including diabetes or heart disease. The report released Monday shows those being treated for those conditions are 6 times more likely to be hospitalized with COVID-19 and 12 times more likely to die from it. Wow. All right, let's take a look at the number of coronavirus cases in our state. Now, this is a graph showing the hospitalizations. All the way to the right, that number has been pretty high lately. The state reported 797 people fighting the virus in the hospital statewide. That number has come down the last few days, but not by much. So here's another graph. It's a rolling 2-week average. These are the numbers, but they're added to the dotted line to show the trend over the past 14 days. And you can see that's also trending upward. This is what health experts use to figure out whether the state is improving in terms of the number of new cases. Now, overall, there were 983 new cases statewide yesterday. 1,118 North Carolinians have died since the start of the pandemic. I want to keep in mind here that more testing is being done. So to put it in perspective, there are more than 600,000 tests that have now been completed. The Department of Health and Human Services has a special fund to help families facing eviction during the coronavirus pandemic. The funding would help low-income families pay bills, rent, that they haven't really been able to pay since the pandemic started. And this would help them not being evicted. To be eligible, individuals or families need to be at or below 200% of the poverty level. The Greensboro Science Center is reopening after being closed for about 3 months due to COVID-19. News 2's Candace Red shows you how the center is keeping everyone safe.
The Greensboro Science Center is reopening with limited capacity after being closed for 93 days due to the coronavirus pandemic. The center opened for members only yesterday. The center will also be open today, but again, only for members. The general public can visit the center starting tomorrow. Guests will be required to make online reservations in advance. Staff will be following the CDC's guidelines to help slow the spread of COVID-19. That includes cleaning and disinfecting, frequent hand washing, and the use of face masks. Well, guests must limit groups to a maximum of 10 individuals, maintain a distance of at least 6 feet away from others, and follow a one-way path through the center, while high-touch exhibits and attractions will still be closed. That includes the Stingray Touch Tank, the lower level of the museum, and other spaces marked too difficult to maintain proper social distance.
The biggest change is, quite frankly, the numbers. We have dramatically reduced our numbers. We were facing record attendance for the history of the Greensboro Science Center right before the pandemic hit. Record numbers. So now we're having to very much limit that. So our numbers will be smaller, but that's safer.
If you plan on visiting the Greensboro Science Center, you are urged to wear face masks or some sort of face covering to protect yourself and others from the risk of COVID-19. But for more details on this story, all you have to do is visit our website. That's WFMY News 2. GMS.com.
And let's get one more check on that forecast. It's a soggy one. It's a cool one. Very much not June-like, I should say. We'll have those rounds of rain as we go throughout the afternoon. And temperatures will struggle to get out of the 50s today. It will be breezy at times as well. Winds could gust 25 to 30 miles per hour, so keep the rain gear handy. I do think today will be our wettest day of the week. And we'll still have some rain tomorrow around, and it will still be cool in the 60s, but it shouldn't be as persistent as we have today. And eventually, slowly but surely, we do start drying out as our rain chances go down heading through the end of the week, Thursday and Friday. Our temperatures will also start to recover back to the lower 80s on Friday, mid 80s on Saturday, even upper 80s, could be close to 90 again by Sunday and Monday. And keep in mind, we still have not had a 90-degree day in the Triad so far for 2020.
So weird how we'll go from 60 to 88 in a matter of days.
North Carolina.
Yeah, that's the best way to explain it. Looking at that Greensboro sky camera and the monitor next to you, it's just amazing how much rain is coming and just how gray it is. And it's not going to look better for a little while. So.
No.
All right, well, thanks so much for interacting with us on Facebook Live. These conversations have been really great and your comments have been awesome. So keep joining us every Monday through Friday at 7:45. We'll definitely read as many comments as we can, and I will try my hardest to make sure that they are equal on both sides. But as we say goodbye, we just certainly appreciate you interacting and kind of weighing in here, as you always do. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Take care.